Doesn't get much better than being UFC champion, achieving one of the highest honors in all of combat sports. But the higher you climb, the harder you fall. In this episode of MMAnytt TV, we check out 5 former UFC champions fall from grace. Number 5. Brazilian bantamweight Henan Barao took the UFC by storm when he first entered the promotion. Undefeated since 2005 and with an impressive win streak, he extended it in the UFC, eventually winning the interim bantamweight belt, later being promoted to the undisputed championship. During his title reign, Barao knocked out contenders like Uriah Faber and Eddie Wineland, with UFC president Dana White calling the Baron one of the greatest of all time. And then TJ Dillashaw came along. As a huge underdog, Dillashaw fought the perfect fight, knocking out Barao in the 5th round. Barao returned for a rematch after defeating Mitch Gagnon, but was knocked out again by Dillashaw. Since then, Barao has gone 4 fights and lost 3 of them, most recently to Brian Kelleher, and he's gone from bantamweight champion to not even being in the top 15 ranking. Number 4. Rashad Evans won The Ultimate Fighter Season 2 and thereafter went on an impressive 8-fight unbeaten streak until he was given a title shot against then reigning light heavyweight champ Forrest Griffin at UFC 92. Evans won in impressive fashion with a 3rd round knockout, but was himself knocked out by Lyoto Machida in the first title defense. After another impressive win streak, he received another title shot against the new champion Jon Jones, but lost a lopsided unanimous decision, in what seemed to be the beginning of the end for Evans. He was upset by Minotauro Nogueira at UFC 156 and won his 2 following fights, but an injury kept him sidelined for 2 years before returning to fight Ryan Bader in a disappointing performance that saw the former champ lose via decision. After that, he was knocked out by Glover Teixeira and lost his 2 following fights in middleweight against much lesser known and lower ranked Daniel Kelly and Sam Alvey. Evans is now on a 4-fight losing streak and has lost 6 out of his last 8. He has still been talking about another fight, but his last performances have been lacking and we haven't glimpsed that sugar that sent him skyrocketing in the light heavyweight division. Number 3. Anderson Silva is without a doubt one of the greatest fighters of all time, cementing his legacy as the most dominant UFC middleweight champion ever, with spectacular performances against the likes of Vitor Belfort and Forrest Griffin. However, when faced with a fresh young challenger Chris Weidman at UFC 162, Weidman shocked the world, knocking out the iron-chinned Silva and then defeating the Brazilian again via TKO in the rematch, in a fight where Silva suffered a gruesome leg break. Silva managed to come back to defeat Nick Diaz via decision, a decision that was later changed after that Silva tested positive for steroids. Silva lost his 2 following fights against Michael Bisping and Daniel Cormier, winning an extremely controversial decision over Derek Brunson in his latest fight, about that 20 out of 24 media outlets had Brunson winning. Silva may be coming off a win, but he tested positive for steroids again ahead of a planned bout with Kelvin Gastelum, and once again, the Spider's legacy has been tarnished. Number 2. Johny Hendricks entered the UFC with a strong wrestling base and outrageous knockout power, winning 10 out of his 11 first fights in the promotion. Upon getting his title shot against then champ Georges St. Pierre, Hendricks put in a great performance that many thought won him the fight, but he lost by a controversial split decision. After GSP's departure from the UFC, Hendricks would later win the title after beating Robbie Lawler via decision, but he lost the rematch and thereby the title. Big Rig managed to return to the win column after defeating Matt Brown by decision, but was quickly knocked out in the 1st round by Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in his following fight. Since that loss, Hendricks has only won 1 out of his following 5 fights, losing his latest 2 fights by a knockout. Number 1. Everybody loves BJ Penn. He is a true pioneer of the sport, a legend, and he managed to win both the lightweight and welterweight titles in his prime. Still today standing as one of the best lightweights ever. Since losing his title to Frankie Edgar though, we haven't really seen the same fighter now as before. Since his title loss at UFC 112, Penn has only won 1 out of his last 8 fights, with 1 draw as well. As of now, he's on a 5-fight losing streak with 2 losses via knockout, with his most recent loss coming to Dennis Seaver at UFC Fight Night 112. In a recent interview with MMAnytt, Penn said that he's still open for fights in the UFC.
Is the door left open? Are you doing like your SADA and all that sort of thing?
The door is always open. The door is always open.
Fans are surely hoping for a gracious return, but his past performances unfortunately have been lacking, and on such a tough losing streak, it truly is a fall from grace for his beloved former champion. So this was 5 former UFC champs fall from grace. If we missed your favorite, let us know what it is in the comments, and we'll catch you guys next time.